When I started this video, I wanted to talk about a funny story I personally witnessed online. I wanted to document it and share my thoughts on everything that went down. However, as I began making that video, the one you're watching now, I started to question why I was making that video. Who was I benefiting? Is there anything here to learn from? What do I get out of this? Eventually, those questions morphed into a video about capitalizing on drama and creating entertainment out of something serious. After a while, it took over the video entirely and made it veer off in a completely different direction. And because of that, the video may feel a little disjointed, and the transition from the original version to my additional discussion will be very apparent. Although, despite the apparent disjointedness, I still believe there is something to glean here and think about. A genuine ethical battle I don't think is talked about enough or taken seriously. So with that out of the way, let's begin with the story which sparked this whole thing. Fellas, we need to talk about how to respond to drama. Not to imply that many of you will be getting into drama anytime soon, at least I hope not, Santa is watching. But the ideas that I'm going to cover relate to many sectors in life. An argument online, reacting to criticism, and of course, responding to drama. Now before I lose a few of you, let's start with the first rule of responding to allegations. Chapter 1. Don't fucking bark at them, what are you doing? I'm gonna attempt to not mention any of the names involved in this story. I'm doing so to protect the privacy and respect of the individual involved who is not responsible for many of the accusations brought their way. The leading of which being affiliations to cub artists, so it gets pretty bad. One consequence of reaching a certain level of popularity will be lots of different eyes on every single one of the actions you do. This can go as far as to include your affiliates and the actions of the people around you. Red Husky, the popular furry at the midst of this controversy, was once affiliated and had occasional interactions with another furry artist that we'll call Bubbles the dog. Those interactions took place between the years 2021 to 2022. We can identify this for a series of screenshots showing the dates of their interactions both publicly and in private. The last interaction can be seen here with the date 22nd of August 2022. I'm not just highlighting the dates that arbitrarily stretch the runtime of this video. I've actually been wanting to make a shorter video for months now. I mentioned the dates because it has integral importance to the story. As time began to drag, Bubbles would explore art of different kinds, and on the date 27th of July 2023 would mark the first instance of Bubbles posting the form of content known as cub. For the blissfully unaware, cub refers to art of an anthro animal below its supposed age of maturity. Now if this were just age regression or simply some artistic expression, then it would be fine. Although, once it becomes erotic material, then there are some obvious ethical discrepancies. And I'm putting that extremely lightly. You should be able to easily discern how questionable this really seems. And what's of most importance is the distance between each of these dates. Nearly a full year separates these two instances. So by nature, it would be disingenuous to point blame at Red for once holding a very loose friendship with another creator, particularly when this creator had no signs of unethical material or morally questionable activity. However, that's not what had occurred, and in early 2024, the account known as Captain Ferret would spark an accusation firestorm by stating, "Was scrolling through my feed and saw someone retweeted this. Bubbles openly draws toddlers acting around." Captain Ferret was a largely insignificant figure until this tweet was made, no doubt helped by a retweet from a far larger gimmick account within the fandom. Popufur, try not to commission very bad acts challenge impossible. One necessary question to be initially asked is with the framing of this tweet. A negative act done by commission. In other words, knowingly and willingly requesting this content. The gimmick account's assertion that this was commission material is not based on any real evidence, making it all the more embarrassing for them to say that this artwork was confirmed to be gifted and not commissioned. Furthermore, the contents of the piece show no obvious signs the age of either character is being scaled down, or any real way to believe the assertion made by the account outside of their own personal word. This is already a terrible beginning to the framework of the argument, and it should be asked what responsibility does an account with such a considerable following have to speak so loosely given the circumstances, to tweet with such confidence and ridicule on a topic they clearly don't have a proper understanding about. And to make matters worse, they didn't stop here. Structured on the idea that Red was in contact with a cub artist, the gimmick account quickly transformed into a rampant doubling down against the creator, making further accusations against other creators like Potassium Feline, again with no sufficient evidence. The repeated behavior of falsely accusing creators was ignorant at best, malicious at worst. Whichever way it is put, someone within the moderation team clearly didn't have a good eye for appropriate internet protocol. Lead moderator of the account, Miles H. Rabbitfoot, would parrot similar remarks on their personal account, heavily insinuating that Potassium Feline was engaging in inappropriate behavior with underage followers. This would suggest that Miles was the moderator of the account that was making these claims, or was at least supportive in their insinuations. However, once these posts began to generate a considerable amount of backlash, Miles would create a response, alleging a separate moderator for constructing the inflammatory tweets against creators. The moderator named responsible was none other than Captain Ferret. That's right, the same person who made the initial tweet against Red Husky was the same person who moderated the account that made the tweets against the other creators. What motive would someone have to act like this? And why do their moderator buddies seem so complicit in their actions? First appearance seemed to heavily suggest that Miles was the one behind these tweets, but that role was quickly switched out for this Captain Ferret individual, a character who seemingly appeared out of thin air only to act as some convenient scapegoat, because in reality, that is all that Captain Ferret really was, a scapegoat, and an apparition. Every single one of the accounts mentioned was run by the same person, Miles H. Rabbitfoot. Captain Ferret, the moderator, and Miles were all the same person, posing not only as these people, but on separate accounts he liked to pose as a black or transgender person. Yeah, this guy seems great. As a black man, I have to ask this: when did fuck racist become fuck white people? Bruh, making fun of something by saying it's a white people thing is the whitest thing you can do. In an understandable turn of events, Twitter began to unanimously fight on the side against Miles, inevitably driving him and his alt off the platform. Go team. However, that wasn't the only tweet from Red Husky that was made during this debacle. It's the initial response from Red that I take immense issue with and wish to highlight in this video. Immediately after the allegation began to gain some traction, Red would tweet, "I'm honestly so sick of dealing with people who try to cancel me that literally have me blocked. They tried to expose me for gift art I got. That was from 2 years ago that literally shows my friend at the time and I licking each other's paws. I'm not into baby fur/child stuff and I don't judge people that do, but obviously it's bad when it's porn related. And I would have immediately told them that I don't give permission if I saw it as something related to porn. I'm just done dealing with people trying to find dumbass reasons to cancel me when I literally don't do anything cancelable. I'm just a dog on the internet." There are a few mistakes we can point out in this response. As we went over before, there were far more conclusive ways to dismiss the arguments thrown towards them. Why instead of bringing this up, Red would instead choose to mention that the harassers had him blocked, or begin by saying how upset he is, I am not sure. He does mention that he does not agree with this form of artwork, but when failing to mention the full story, it's understandable how people could look past that. Following up by saying you're just a dog on the internet provides more fuel to the fire. Whilst I understood the sentiment, the statement doesn't go over well with audiences if they assume there is some truth to the allegations. Saying that you're just a dog when people believe that you have done something heinous feels like a spit in the face, and the tweets only got worse from here. 6 hours later, Red would tweet the word daddy until it filled out the word count, doing the same with the word bark a few tweets later. In general, it is very clear how much better this reaction could have been handled, demonstrating a key example of how to conduct yourself online. You're a public figure. Have at least a little bit of professionalism, I beg you. It can come off as incredibly arrogant to those wanting answers when all you do is tweet the word daddy or bark at them. Whilst I recognize the stressful environment, it should be made very clear that this is not the way to address public questioning. Be respectful to those seeking clarification. It does not serve you well to be vague then strangely sexual mere hours later. If someone is asking you to explain a certain topic or elaborate on a certain point, if a concerned friend approaches you asking about something you or someone you know has done, be respectful of their concern and their questioning. take your response semi-seriously, otherwise you look arrogant to their concern. That wasn't even the only response Red Husky had, as in between the barking and daddy tweets was the most infamous moment of this entire debacle. A video of Red Husky's VTuber avatar crying and singing Lovely by Billie Eilish and Khalid. Any rational human can easily see why this is a terrible idea. You haven't done a great job at responding to the story. Currently, a lot of people aren't on your side. If the allegations had any weight to them, this would be the most pathetic thing ever. Even worse, marketably pathetic. This is the exact type of content that is ripe to go viral. It would be near impossible not to notice a suspected Cubs sympathist crying behind their VTuber avatar to one of the most mainstream boring songs ever recorded. I'm sorry to fans of this song, and I've appreciated some of Billie's work before, but I could not care less about this overdramatic garbage. Really, that's one of my biggest takeaways from this story. Not the shitty Khalid song, but the sheer virality of the cover. The irresistibility of talking about it. There's just too many moments to pick apart and talk about. At the time, people felt morally justified to belittle and make fun of this behavior because it is inherently comedic. It's cartoonishly strange, second only to doing a cover of fucking Creep by Radiohead. Perhaps it is a daunting perspective to take, but it does give commentary to how we view societal issues and how much of our interest boils down to the sheer marketability of a situation. How people, oftentimes content creators, try to capitalize on something at its most entertaining. When Red Husky made that singing video, it provided creators a way to market the situation. Hey guys, take a look at how funny this moment was, like my tweet to agree. And it got me thinking about how big of a role does entertainment play? What are the ramifications about making drama entertaining? This chapter is literally titled Don't Bark at Them. I am actively making fun of what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to use that joke as a way to dismiss any other context or discussion to be had. Although I don't think this behavior is isolated to just the drama sphere. And I've talked rigorously about drama content enough on this channel. So to prevent sounding like a broken record, we're going to talk about another sector of the internet that tries to handle serious topics: debate culture. Debate culture online can be seen in many forms, due in some part to the vague labeling that comes with debating. However, I'm primarily interested in the live streaming community and their perspective on the debate scene. Let's say for the means of defending a point you partake in a live debate. What are the stakes? How is an even and balanced debate structured? And how can you ensure the conversation will be fought on an even playing field? You'll notice that I've used very specific wording here: defending and fought. This is because debating at its core is a battle between two or more opposing parties. This is who debaters are. They are fighters competing in a publicized sport. One comes through as the attacking team to rival the other's arguments. In the end, someone comes out victorious, but that doesn't mean convincing the other party, only appearing to be intellectually superior. I can't shake this feeling that through debate culture I'm watching a show and nothing more, as though the true weight of the situation or any context of the conversation is sidelined in place for some ego war. It's no secret a large volume of debate content can be seen as trivial dick-swinging fodder, tainted by a few childish, pedantic actors who couldn't care less about holding a civilized discussion. Although that view isn't exactly fair, and by no means does this behavior reflect the validity of debating as a whole. And I don't want you to leave with the view that I hate debate culture or have a general distaste for debate bros as they call them. Debating is a core part of how a lot of our history was decided, and conversations between two opposing political parties are annoying but productive nonetheless. Instead, I want to challenge the notion that debating is a requirement in order for any opinion to be regarded as noteworthy, as if to be proven in some way a publicly held debate is a rite of passage. This is absurd to me and frankly ableist, but we'll get to that in a second. First, before any other questions, we must ask, what benefit does debating provide to the conversation? Does the inclusion of a live audience hinder or complement the process? And on a similar note, is debating as we currently know it flawed? Debating is a powerful teaching tool, and its use in schools has been shown to produce great effects in emotional maturity and critical thinking of students. Students may then enter adulthood with an established understanding of resolving conflicts and cooperation, a cooperation which benefits nicely to housing well thought out, mature conversations with those around you. In a previous video, I brought up a study which analyzed college students in response to environments of diverse political opinion. It found that students possessed increased integrative complexity and cognitive awareness when exposed to these diverse environments. Put simply, a diversity of opinion jolted the cognitive activity towards resolution, and the disagreement progressed innovation. This answers the first question of, does debating provide anything to the conversation? And it answers with a resounding yes. However, this benefit is achieved by any form of conversation between two political oppositions. A sit down over a cup of coffee to have a friendly chat does the exact same thing. Hey, if not better, because you're getting a lovely drink out of it. Translating this to a live setting doesn't amount to any more understanding. It is the same practice in a different coat of paint. Going further, neither does verbally having this conversation either. We are merely talking about conversing with opposing political views in general, not necessarily in an audio-based call. A text-based conversation provides the exact same benefit without convoluting it with the live setting, or even needing to be present the entire conversation. So why is live audio-based debate the norm and not the exception? In part, it's because it is entertainment. These live debates are the most stimulating way of housing the conversation. They're quick, aggressive, and there's so much tension between these two high school educated men. Just so much tension that only feels like I'm waiting for one of them to slip up, make a split-second decision that I'm given months to deliberate on. The conversation within a debate is meant to progress innovation towards a sturdy conclusion, not be the conclusion and pass off any discrepancies as, oh, I was live, give me a break, but didn't you see how I bodied that guy? I guess the idea of learning new information is lost when it all comes down to a score sheet of who can call out the most logical fallacies. I think debating is awesome, and I have immense respect for the people who want to test their understanding and have the confidence to question themselves by talking to people that disagree. But I believe the flashy decor of debating severely hinders the entire point of having it as a concept. So who are the people that debate? Or more importantly, who aren't the people that debate? How could a person be disadvantaged, and how should we accommodate for those disadvantages? There are thousands of factors that can go into an unfair performance, be it lack of sleep, nutrition, etc. Those things, however, are hard to quantify and sometimes even harder to regulate. So I won't be talking about those. Instead, I'll highlight 4 separate impairments which would impact someone's ability to debate, being hearing loss, blindness, speech impediments, and anxiety. Hearing and blindness are 2 relatively easy impairments to recognize. They parallel each other by being suitable for one condition and detrimental to the opposite. Text-based conversations would serve the deaf patient well whilst being detrimental to a blind patient. However, it is important to mention if text-to-speech was implemented, this would provide the blind patient suitable accommodations. Conversely, an audio-based conversation would provide the opposite, although speech-to-text features can be slightly less reliable when implemented. Those impairments are a relatively common occurrence through debating spheres, and on a professional level, often require accommodations as to not discriminate against anyone's disability. However, speech and anxiety are far less quantifiable and therefore less accommodated. Would it be fair to pitch a professional speaker against someone with a speech impediment? Without accounting for knowledge, the professional speaker stands a higher chance in a debate. Anxiety plays a similar role. The presence of a live audience or face-to-face confrontation with your opponent can jam both speech and hearing. This is further compounded the more speakers that are present, with an increased chance of sensory overload and eventual panic. Forgive me if I'm starting to bore you with some obvious information. I'm sure you could recognize and conclude which groups would be affected and how based on a simple understanding of each impairment. My reason for sluggishly trudging through each and every example is to carry home the idea that equality in a live debate is rare and largely inefficient. Why should we hold a format that isn't attainable for so many people to such a high standard? Why do we expect people of all kinds to be able to defend themselves in every every environment. Believing that someone who is incapable of defending themselves reflects on their understanding and not any underlying condition they have. I say this not to discredit debating in any way, but question its power within our culture. I believe debating should be held in environments benefiting equality, not environments benefiting content. You have the right to refuse a conversation that steps outside of your comfort zone. You shouldn't use this to escape accountability, but instead address it through your preferred format. The point of this is to have a conversation. It would only be right if everyone was respected through equality, time, and accommodation. If I've learned anything, it's the kind of people that tend to disregard those rules. Content creators who only view things by how funny they are. Cherry picking to uncover the most entertaining aspects to capitalize on. This is the most literal way of interpreting content by a metric of how entertaining you can make it. It's very clear to me that a lot of content creators just want to come off as though they are providing information to the story that they are covering, when all they do is exploit the actual issue at hand. It's performative journalism, but I guess the editing looks cool. I do agree that there is a legitimate place for entertainment-based drama. However, there are more than a few ethical quandaries about such an ideal. Because of course, you can't separate drama and entertainment, and even if you could, wouldn't that make the world so much more boring? What I'm talking about is letting that entertainment corrupt any actual message of the video. If you willingly let that entertainment take away from a fair and balanced conversation, then what are you actually prioritizing? Can the platform of online debating really be seen as so important when a lot of it comes down to a flashy display of entertainment? I expected the moral of this video to be about responses, how to correctly handle yourself online and share balanced conversations with one another. It would provide a fun way of learning how to be a better conversationist, what to do when someone has a serious issue that they want to talk out with you. The primary aspect of that moral would be to acknowledge the time and concern of your friend and respect that. And perhaps debating does fit into this lesson, to not push the person into amplified conditions just to make a big deal out of it, or make sure that both of you are communicating in comfortable environments. But it also acts as a warning. There are a lot of people that just want to capitalize on this stuff, on real issues, when they know there are better and more productive ways of handling the topic, but they don't. They choose the road that's most lucrative. In the end, I don't really know if I added to the drama that started this video. If I turned the story into some moral lesson, or I just found a way to tangent into debate culture. But maybe you can do the same thing that I wanted to do. Look at a story and put together some tangible lesson about it. What do you interpret from this video? What do you learn about it? Is there something connecting all the things I talked about? What do you make of it? You know, that's the part of joy that I get from content creation. Taking something and viewing it from a different angle. The video may not be entirely correct, hell, it might not even be completed, but you can still extrapolate something from it. YouTube's slogan is to broadcast yourself, and this was just a few different themes that I've seen on the internet. And I hope that you've enjoyed listening to me talk about those themes. I do that a lot on the channel. This isn't my first or last venture, so check me out. And maybe you'll find a few ideas that you like. Hey, you could even form your own ideas. And honestly, I think I know which one I would like more. So with that being said, I'll see you losers next time. Peace.